Use the water. Oh, done. Good afternoon and welcome to the May 31st, 2024 meeting of the Rotary Club of Beavercreek. Thanks to Craig Tapp and David for serving as our greeters, for Amanda Hayes jumping in to be our ticket master. Is that ticket mistress? One of those. Beth Hayworker, thank you for the setup and getting here equipped up here. Though we may later regret it. Thanks to Pete Bales, Mark Weinstein, and Mike Zwick for our great programs, and Jim Gundel for handling the website. Denny, would you give us an invitation, please?
Well, good afternoon. Please join me in prayer. Oh, Holy Creator, teach us true discrimination, that we be able to tell the difference between faith and fatalism, between activity and accomplishments, between humility and an inferior complex, between a quick salute to you and a real prayer that seeks out your will. We thank you for our new meeting this week and teach us true discernment. Amen.
Thanks, Danny. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. So Joe Jenkins let us know he is on the road today. Our secretary's report, believe it or not, we have 62.5% on this beautiful day. So we have two guests, and they are our GSI staff members over here, Abby and Bree. So thanks for coming again. Okay, so our Sergeant at Arms, Chris Hadley. As Chris is coming up, I'm going to pass around a couple sign-up sheets. One's for greeters, the other's for Sunday help at our pancakes service out at the Creek Classic.
Good afternoon, everybody. I forgot to give what day of the year this is, but I'm just looking at the calendar, end of May, we are probably at the halfway point or get to the halfway point. So something to keep in mind if you're still working on New Year's resolutions or need a reason to start New Year's resolutions, today will probably be the day. Going to members' birthdays, we have a couple that we had earlier in the week. Apparently May 26th was a great day to have a baby, as Barbara DeMary, celebrated birthday on 26th, Andrew Hunt and Joanna Garcia, all May 26th. Tomorrow is coincidentally National Say Something Nice Day, which is also Charles Curran's birthday. So keep that in mind when you think of him and wish him a happy birthday. And then later in next week, June 8th, we have Ryan Rushing's birthday. Member anniversaries. Our speaker today, Mr. Eric Marcus, will be celebrating a total of 36 years in Rotary, 20 with us, 16 at a previous chapter. And as far as wedding anniversaries, tomorrow we have Mark and Lisa Weinstein celebrating 33 years. We have Andrew Hunt double dipping on celebrations. Him and Krista are celebrating 24 years on the 3rd. And then Dave and Deborah Haffey are on the 8th, celebrating 55 years of marriage. All right, this day in history, today back in 1770, the United States established the awesome copyright law, which we all have grown to love. There's a lot of war, death, tragedy, controversy, but on the good side, 1859, Big Ben, the clock, not the football player, started taking in London. 1879, a gentleman by the name of William Henry Vanderbilt apparently did not like the name Gilmore's Garden in New York City and renamed it to Madison Square Garden. 1943, Mr. Broadway Joe Namath was born. And then just a little bit before him, 1930, which is hard to believe, Clint Eastwood was born. This one is near and dear to me because I remember this day very vividly. In 2008, Usain Bolt breaks the world record in the 100-meter sprint with a 9.72-second 100-meter time. What's even crazy is later on in that year in the Olympics, he went and ran a 9.69 in 100 meters. This one ticked me off so bad because if you remember that race, and before the finish line, he starts celebrating. He even had one of his shoes become untied. So for me, I'm sitting here thinking this guy could have ran way faster if he had ran all the way through. Next year in the World Championships, he runs a 9.58. And since then, no one has even come close to that time, which is pretty phenomenal. 2009, Miss Melvina Dean is the last known person to have survived the sinking of the Titanic. She passed away in England. She was 9 weeks old at the time of the disaster, which is crazy to think someone would take a 9-week to be on a cruise ship, but I guess it's a different time back in the 1900s. We're looking for some things to celebrate today. Today is National Autonomous Vehicle Day, National Smile Day, National Macaroon Day, and also National Speak in Complete Sentences Day. Since June is right around the corner, we got some fun month celebrations for the month of June. June is known as Give a Bunch of Balloons Month, National DJ Month, National Safety Month, National Men's Health Month. I will not get on a soapbox, but guys, don't be hard-headed. Get yourself checked out, get the blood work done. It is crucial, important. It's also National Iced Tea Month, National Dairy Month. It's also National Camping Month, National Trails, or sorry, National Camping Month, National Day Month. Got that confused. Also, National Fresh Fruit and Vegetables Month, and if you're one of those crazy people, National Adopt a Cat Day. We also have tomorrow National Trails Day and National Go Barefoot Day, but I would recommend not doing the two of them together. Definitely separate those two out. Tomorrow's also National Play Outside Day, and if you are looking for something fun, the Beavercreek Library from 12 to 2 have their their summer reading kickoff party. That is open for kids and adults of everyone of all ages. So if you have not signed up, definitely do so. And now, since it seems like everyone has a high school senior graduating right around this time of the year, I figured what a great time to drop some random graduation facts for everyone. So high school graduation ceremonies date back to the 12th century. The earliest graduations were part of the medieval university system, where students would be awarded degrees after completing their studies. The cap and gown was also originated in the Middle Ages and was referred to as the academic dress, which is a fancy way of just describing a clerical robe. By the 19th century, high schools in the United States copycatted that idea, adapted similar practices for their graduating ceremonies. This one you will want to write down. The word diploma comes from the Greek word diploma, meaning folded paper. Historically, diplomas were handwritten on parchment, folded or rolled for presentation, and now they're much more fancier documents on thick paper and expensive frames that we all have to buy. The traditional graduation song "Pomp and Circumstance" was first played at Yale's graduation in 1905. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s and watched wrestling, you might know that song from the Macho Man Randy Savage. In the 90s, we saw a rise of high schools opting for more current and contemporary songs that resonated with students. Myself, when I graduated in 2001, we were very clever when it came to our song. We picked a one-hit wonder by Vitamin C called Graduation. In the US, high school graduation rates reached an all-time high of 85% in 2018, which is awesome. The oldest known high school graduate is Guadalupe Palacios, or something to that effect, who graduated at the age of 96 in Mexico in 2018. She started high school at 92, proving it's never too late to get an education. This one is hard to believe, but it was on the internet, so it's got to be true. Michael Kearney is recognized as the youngest high school graduate, having received his diploma at the age of 6 in 1990. He went on to earn multiple college degrees by his teens. The longest graduation ceremony, take this into consideration if you go to any this year, took over 8 hours to complete. The shortest was 30 minutes. The largest graduating class in US history was from Brooklyn Technical High School in New York City with over 1,500 students in one ceremony. On average, we have about 66 high school students that enroll in college right after graduation, and about 16% that go into the trades, which I think that number is steadily going up, which is always a good thing. Oprah Winfrey holds the record for delivering the most high school commencement speeches by a celebrity, having spoken at more than 20 high schools. But the record for most graduation speeches given in one individual season is held by the New York City's Chancellor of Education, who in 2022 spoke at 50 different high school graduations. So I'm assuming that person's schedule was quite full. Now moving on to the greatest school of all time, Beavercreek High School. Beavercreek High School has a graduation rate of around 95%, which is higher than the state of Ohio's average of 84. So obviously we are doing well. We currently rank in the top 50% of all public schools in Ohio, with 35% of students achieving math proficiency and 86% achieving reading proficiency. The first graduating class in Beavercreek took place in 1888. That class had approximately 20 students. In 1932, the high school moved to a new centralized location, which is now Main Elementary. The current high school was completed in 1954, and the original high school building over the years, after it was no longer a high school, has served many purposes as a residence, a car dealership, and a restaurant. So I know last time feedback I got was a little crazy with the fees or the fines that I introduced to everybody. So today I will take it easy. We'll just do 2 fines. The standard one, if you don't have your Rotary badge, that's going to be $1. And then if you have ever graduated high school, that'll be $1.
Okay, so those egregious fines are being collected from our Sergeant at Arms, Fire Sergeant at Arms. Who's got a happy buck?
Tomorrow is the Dayton Honor Flight happening at the Dayton International Airport. They've got the welcome home ceremony. I think it starts at 7. But I brought some thank you cards. If anybody has some time today, and can't make it tomorrow, just feels like it. My grandpa's gonna be coming through on the honor flight and the ceremony. So if you want to write him a little note, I've got some cards.
So,
I enjoyed going up to the Miami Valley Quilt Show out of Turin Underground this morning. So if you know anybody who's into that, that's going on today and tomorrow. But we have a lot of very talented artists in the area, so that's quite fun.
cool. Other happy bucks. Really? Shannon?
I'll throw one out there. So Sunday at the VFW, Isaac's doing his graduation thing. That's my last high school thing I have to do with my children. Huge day for me. So
Well, it is all about you, isn't it?
yeah. So if you're out there near the VFW between 2 and 5, feel free to swing in. We've got little cards that people fill out to try and give pearls of wisdom to the graduate. So any pearls of wisdom you might have will definitely help.
All right, but he knows it all at that age. He doesn't even write, so
Right,
great time.
I'm happy, yeah, $5 are happy because it's 5 grandkids babysitting for 5 days. Oh, my God, it's not good.
It's the end of that year. That's your celebration. Yeah. Who else has happy buck? Elizabeth?
The
Yeah.
18th graduation party for Dolly Parton Imagination Library. So it was 5-year-olds going into kindergarten and they actually finished the program, and we had over 300 attendees at the Oak Church. It was just a great event, and we hope to continue that in the future.
It's awesome. Other happy bucks? It's clear. Stein, anyone have an announcement? So I will announce again, we're looking for people to fill spots for Sundays, making pancakes at the Creek Classic. out at Anchorage Field Complex. I'll send you guys information about where to go. But what we're going to do, we're going to park on Joe Jenkins's property, which borders that. And so I'm going to make up little passes for you that are bright yellow so that they won't just try and force you into the complex, that you can go straight onto Joe's property. And so if you can help us out, we'll get that Sunday schedule. We're pretty good for Saturday, and should be fun. All right. Any other announcements? I'm sure I'm missing something, but okay. Ticket drawing for the chance to look for the Queen of Hearts and draw for that. What is it? Our half of ours goes to our half of the pot goes to the Christmas baskets, and the number is 339626. That seems like there's a fix in there or something. Or somebody's gonna go.
Joker. Oh, you mean? She won the ticket drawing when we did.
Oh, yeah. And it gets to draw from it. Good thing that we didn't have a winner on that one. So uncomfortable. Okay. Bales will introduce our mystery speaker.
That's right. Our mystery speaker joins us by Zoom today. Thank you very much, Eric. Just so you know, Eric grew up in New York City suburbs of Connecticut. After attending Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois, he transferred to the Ohio State University and became a proud Buckeye. After graduation with a degree in biology, Eric went to work as a unit manager for Domino's Pizza. 2 years later, he opened his first Domino's franchise in Fairmont. A short time later, he took on a partner, and together they opened 75 Domino's pizzas in Ohio, Indiana, New York, Wisconsin, and in Sydney, Australia. In 1990, having divested themselves in stores in New York, Wisconsin, Australia, Eric moved to Beavercreek to concentrate on the 50 stores in the Dayton and the Indianapolis areas. He sold the company, and for the last 20 years has devoted his time to nonprofits and organizations like Rotary. He served as our Rotary Club president in 2008 and 9. In 2014 and 15, he was district governor, and along with his Rotary activities, he has volunteered with the exchange student program, and he and his wife Leila have hosted 15 exchange students and many exchange grandchildren around the world. We are certainly a better club because of Eric's involvement, and I appreciate all of his contributions. So please welcome Eric Marcus.
Speakers all how. You're muted, Eric.
So how he's me, that's like
Right. I'm muted.
There you go. There you go. Now you're good. You're good. No, it's not. Triple stick cells.
All right, do you guys have the picture?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So this is going to be kind of like a travelogue. In January, I traveled to Cuba with a bunch of Rotarians. I've always said that Rotary is really great, and if one Rotary club is good, 2 Rotary clubs must be even better. And a couple years ago, I joined a virtual club as an associate member. And so the associate member club is called the Rotary Club of Global Travelers, and they travel around the world on trips and then do service projects as part of those trips. One of these trips was to Cuba, a place I've always wanted to go. And when it came an opportunity to go to Cuba, I kind of jumped at it. This is my first view of Cuba from the airplane. There are direct flights from Miami to both Havana and Santa Clara. We're flying in here on this trip. We flew into Santa Clara and then traveled, stayed in a couple cities, and it ended up in Havana and flew home from Havana. The flight process is pretty easy. There's really not a visa. You do an online a form, and then when you get to the airport, you give them $100 by credit card at a little stand by the lectern by the gate, and you get a little card that lets you in, a little piece of paper that lets you into Cuba. Our first stop was at a monument to Che Guevara. I think you might find it interesting that Che Guevara is more revered, I think, in Cuba than Fidel Castro. I did not see a lot of monuments to Fidel, but I saw a lot of stuff for Che. T-shirts, monuments, posters, all kinds of stuff. Oh, by the way, the reason I'm on Zoom is I have COVID, so don't get too close to the screen. Uh-oh. Here we go. We see a lot of old cars in Cuba. And a lot of them now no longer have their real parts. They can't get parts for them, so they kind of manufacture the stuff that they need or scavenge off of other stuff. So I have a lot of pictures of old cars. Most of the old cars are used for the tourist trade. So they'll give rides in old cars and things like that, or displays of them. Okay, our first stop was Cienfuego, and this is a mall, kind of a walkway. You can see that the road has been closed and is now a walkway. And this is kind of downtown shopping area of Cienfuego. Most of these areas are really designed for tourists and not so much for the local population, which doesn't have the money to really spend in the shops that we saw. The population in Cuba is fairly poor relative to, say, the United States. I mean, there are rich people, but for the most part, what you see are people that aren't. Many of the shops take credit cards, but they don't take US credit cards. They'll take Canadian or foreign credit cards, but since the US has the embargo on Cuba, there are no US credit cards. At some point during the pandemic, the government put together their own credit card, and that's what locals use. Locals can use the local Cuban credit card, which goes right to their account and takes the money out, kind of like a debit card. This was a statue. It's Benny Moré. He was a musician, but why I have it there, you can see, I don't know if you can see my pointer, but you touch his arm. There's a spot there right here, and it gives you good luck. And he's standing there, and people go there and they stand with him and they rub him to get good luck. This was another view of a place in Cienfuego. It's a panorama, so it's really not the shape that you see it, but it kind of does cool. It kind of looked really neat after I took the picture because it kind of curved it all together and made it into one. A lot of the buildings are fairly old. And in Cienfuego, I did not see anything that looked like new construction. Just a little shot of a building. You can see right through it. I had the outside someplace, but I didn't bother to put it in the thing. We traveled to a place called Park El Nicho. It was really neat. There's a waterfall, and at the very top, there's a pool you can go swimming in. The ascent was steep. Getting my fat body up the hill was not an easy thing to do. There were a number of places where there were bridges, and the bridges were basically a 2x6 laid from side to side with a branch for a railing running the length of it that you could hang on to so you wouldn't fall into whatever it was that was underneath. This is just a quick shot of the waterfall. And here's another close-up of it. This was the pool at the very top. I didn't go in the water. I didn't bring my bathing suit, and I didn't feel like walking back in wet clothes. One of our group did go swimming. He said the water was really nice. This is the mandatory bird picture for Brandon. Brandon, are you there? No, Brandon. This was a hummingbird that we saw in a little like a courtyard of a building that we were in. So I took the picture and I put it in here just because Brandon likes bird pictures. We also went to Trinidad. Now, Trinidad's an interesting place because there hasn't been a road to get to Trinidad for a long, long, long time. And they only built the roads recently within the last, I think, 20 or 30 years. And so Trinidad is really a step back in time. This was a tower of a building that was there. I took it from the Plaza Mayor. You can't really see it there, but this is kind of from in the plaza, looking at some of the buildings and things. Really pretty area. This was the municipal building, as you can see by the sign. This is a quick video, and I couldn't get the sound to work, so I'm very sorry. But when we stayed at our B&B in Trinidad, we went out. Our guide wasn't very happy that we went out, but we went out anyway, and found the locals band playing and things. And I just took a quick video of what was going on. The next day we went to the Bay of Pigs Museum. Many of you may remember the Bay of Pigs was when the CIA put together a group of Cuban nationals who were trying to overthrow Castro and put together an invasion at the Bay of Pigs. And I learned that there were about, I think, 1,500 people in the assault parties that went to the Bay of Pigs. The biggest issue in the Bay of Pigs in the invasion was that nobody knew what anybody else was doing, and the intelligence that they had gathered on where things were was really bad. They landed at the Bay of Pigs. They thought the mountains were close and they were far. They thought that this was there and it wasn't. It appears that the Cuban, the Fidel's government knew that the invasion was going to occur and was prepared for it, and it was an absolute disaster. This is this was a plane. I think it was I don't know what kind of a plane it was, but it was just there on display. And we went inside, and inside is all propaganda against the Yankees, who attacked Cuba and did all these bad things. And so we went and we watched a video about 15 minutes on the Bay of Pigs invasion and what happened. And it was like watching we were watching a propaganda video, and it was produced probably 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So it was pretty old. But it was interesting to see their viewpoint of the Bay of Pigs invasion. Afterwards, we stopped at a restaurant, and had something to eat. Again, some old cars parked outside. I have lots of pictures of old cars that I can show. Oh, excuse me, if anybody's interested. Some more old cars. We stopped at a clinic on the road from Trinidad to Havana and passed out some of the things that we had brought. We brought all kinds of stuff. Flash drives. Flash drives are really valuable there. I bought a bunch of them for $1 a piece. And, they just don't have stuff like that. Toothbrushes, medical supplies, things like that. And so we were passing out some of that stuff there at the clinic. When people saw that we were passing things out, they just swarmed our van to get things. Once we were in Havana, we stayed at a B&B there. Very nice. It was in a high-rise apartment building, and the rooms were real nice. We went to a market. I want you to note that the pricing there is pesos, but the weights of all their products, all their produce, is in pounds, not kilos. So you can see that a pound of onions is 200 pesos, and I bought $100 worth of pesos, and it was a stack about 6 inches high, and was made up of hundreds and 200s. Half were hundreds, half were 200s. So the peso isn't worth very much. We were getting about 260 pesos to the dollar. So those onions were about 80 cents. That's on the black market. The official exchange rate for the peso is something like 50 to the dollar. So if you go to the bank, you don't get nearly as much money. We bought our stuff on the black market. All the vegetables look really fresh. There was meat and stuff like that. All the food, or most of the food in Cuba, is rationed. Everybody gets a ration card, and they're allowed to get like 2 chickens, 10 pounds of rice, 6 eggs, maybe 4 ounces of meat of some kind in a month. And when you go to the store, they clip out the part of your ration card for that. And every month you get a new card that you take that you use to go shopping with. As I said, most of these cars were tourist cars. So we got our guide to get us a couple of cars. We rode in the pink Cadillac around Cuba, around Havana, and saw the city. This was the driver of the car that we took. We were at the Plaza de la Revolucion. And as you can see, I think that's Che up on the building. The other building had Fidel on it. This one had Che. It was a big plaza that was erected to memorialize the revolution that put Fidel Castro into power in Cuba. This was just an interesting shot I had. This little car went running by. I thought it was kind of cute. So I took a picture of it. But there you can see downtown Havana. This was right by the shore. Right behind me is the ocean. Well, I think the Caribbean, or the Gulf of Mexico. I can't remember which. There's a shot of the city of Havana taken out the window from where we were staying. So you could actually was taken off the balcony where we had breakfast in the morning, 13 floors up. So this is what Havana looked like. There's the ocean beyond it. Really pretty city. Most of the buildings fairly old. Most of the things that you saw there pretty old. And this is another building in Cuba. And I don't think I'm going to hit it again because it might be the last slide. I want to talk a little bit about Cuba itself. There's no gasoline available in the inner part of the country. When we were in Cienfuegos and Trinidad, all of the fuel stations were closed. So you couldn't get gasoline. The only place you could buy gasoline was to drive to Havana, 110 miles away. Obviously, if you drove to Havana to fill your car and drove back, by the time you get home, you'd use all the fuel that you'd bought. People would retrofit their cars with like 250-gallon gasoline tanks, drive to Havana, fill these large tanks in the car, and sell gasoline out of their trunk. A lot of the populace rode around in horse-drawn carts. When we were out in our van, doing our touring and seeing the things that the sites we were going to, we passed tons and tons and tons of horse-drawn carts. We also saw a lot of bicycles. Bicycles are very popular, but you can't go very far on a bicycle. You can go a lot further in a horse-drawn cart. So overall, it's a pretty poor country. I did not see any industry. Most of the sugar mills, Cuba used to be a big sugar producing country, and they were one of the top producers of sugar. When the price of sugar crashed in the 2000s, Castro decided that the future of Cuba was tourism. And because the future was tourism, he started closing the sugar mills and building tourist stuff, tourist hotels and tourist attractions, and arranging things so that tourists could do things in Cuba and help provide part of the economy. Then COVID came. And with the coming of COVID, the tourism went away. The sugar mills had all been closed, so there was nothing producing income for the country, which left it in a pretty impoverished state. No money coming in. Everything had to be imported because there's not a lot of farming. I did not see a single factory in the whole time I was there. It's not a place where things are made or produced, and everything is imported. And so they have very little source of income. Now they have tourism from Europe and Asia. But from the United States, it's been reduced again because in 2016, 2017, Donald Trump cut back the tourist aspect of visiting Cuba, so that I was not able to visit Cuba as a tourist. When I left the United States, I had to tell immigration that I was going on behalf of the Cuban people. When I arrived in Cuba, I had to tell Cuban immigration that I was there as a tourist, because I'm not allowed to help the Cuban people with things. So I was like in between two places. Very interesting situation. I could show more pictures, but I really just kind of like open it up to questions for a few minutes and let you guys go home early. Oh, let me tell you a little bit about going to Cuba if you're interested. There's a lady in Rotary in Oklahoma who puts together these tours. Her name is Myrna. A tour when I went was $1,800 per person, double occupancy. It included accommodation, lunch, and all the touring. It didn't include lunch or dinner. I spent about $200 or less on incidentals while I was there. Things that aren't covered, your airline flight. My air ticket was about $400 and something out of Miami, actually out of Cincinnati. round trip to Havana. The visa was 100. Um, we tipped the driver and stuff. The medical insurance is included in your airline ticket. We wanted to get to know the people, build relationships. We brought medical supplies, and we tried to spread goodwill. So now we'll open it up for questions. I'll stop sharing. And any questions?
David Brandenburg has a question. Did not like you to go out at night, but is it because you're Americans in Cuba? Question
Might have
was,
to give him the.
did you hear that?
I had. It
Yeah,
was
the
hard to
question was, I did not want you to go out at night.
the guy didn't want us going out at night. He didn't think it was safe for us to go out. We just left our stuff at home in the hotel room and walked there ourselves, and we're just very careful. I did not ever feel unsafe in Cuba. I did not see police. I did not see soldiers. I didn't see violence or any of that stuff, but I understand that there could be pickpockets and things like that. But otherwise, I felt very safe.
I think specifically David wanted to know if that was based on you being American or just tourists in general.
Just tourists in general. They didn't care that we were American or anything like that. There was no animosity to us as Americans. Does that answer your question, David?
Yes, sir. Thank you. You got it.
Can you ask him how you buy money on the black market?
So the chief is interested in your black market activities.
Yeah. So how I bought money on the black market. The first
He does not
place,
have jurisdiction over it.
the
So
first place
you're
that we,
safe.
the first place that we stayed, the owner of the B&B got our money, and we each gave him like $100, and he went out to somebody that he knew, and he bought us the money. He told us what the exchange rate was going to be, and he bought us the money and brought it back to us in a large satchel.
Doesn't sound fishy at all. I think your tour guide days are in question. Jack Henderson has a question.
When you're returning to home, is there a government procedure to check how much cash you have to determine whether or not you were dealing with a black market?
In the in processing or out processing of the country, do they check your
Yeah,
money
I
to
heard.
determine that?
Yeah, I got it. Returning from Cuba was exactly the same as returning from any other country that I've ever been to. I filled out the stuff at immigration. I had my picture taken. I walked through. I went to customs. I picked up my bags. I waved at the guy and walked out through the I don't have anything to declare.
Do they still have casinos in Cuba?
I'm thinking I saw one, but I can't remember.
You didn't get COVID from rubbing that guy's arm, right?
What's that?
You get COVID from rubbing that statue's arm.
I got COVID after my river cruise. That's my punishment for going and drinking wine for a week.
Chris Sadley has a question.
This has nothing to do with me being in HR, but what else could you buy on the black market? I can't do that. Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, what else did you buy in the black market?
I have no idea. I just exchanged money there.
Other questions?
Everything else we did in we either paid US dollars or Canadian or Cuban pesos for anything we bought. So if we were at a store and buying something and it was 200 pesos, we'd ask them how many dollars it would be, and then we'd do the conversion rate based on how much we had paid for our pesos and decide whether it was cheaper to use pesos or dollars. Sometimes the exchange rate they gave us was better and we used dollars, and sometimes the exchange rate was worse and we used pesos. So we spent both monies.
Shannon, you had a question?
My takeaway from this is you'll have a good time in Cuba as long as you forget the rotary four-way test.
I didn't forget the four-way test. I only got money exchanged because we needed to exchange it. I'm not sure I can even exchange it at the bank. But they were going to give us like 50 pesos per dollar versus 260. So I don't think that's forgetting the test.
I think the conversion rate in Havana, it's only a one-way test. You lose 3 in a conversion. That hamburger has a question.
How many tourists were there and what were the people that were tourists? Where were they from? Could you tell?
Do you have a feel for the
Yeah, they
tourists who
were
were
tourists. They
there?
were from all over. We ran into people from the US. One night we had dinner with a Rotary group from Houston that was they're on a mission through an NGO that they were working with out of that was in Cuba. It was not an American NGO because they're just not allowed there, but it was one that they were able to work with, or maybe it was the Catholic Church or something like that. We saw people from other countries, Scandinavia, Germany, places like that. At the various places we went to. I think most of the places that we went to see were like tourist areas. I'm not sure we spent a lot of time in areas where actual Cubans live. I mean, we walked through some of the neighborhoods and things like that, but it was interesting, and I will tell you that it's not a free country, and it was pretty obvious that it wasn't a free country. We were not permitted, for instance, to do volunteer work with, say, a clinic. When we dropped off supplies at the clinic, we drop them off and leave because we could get in trouble for doing it. So helping the people was almost against the law.
Other questions? No. Okay. Well, Eric, thanks so much.
Did you have a problem with language?
Any
Problem?
language problem?
Our guides all spoke English. Our driver spoke a little bit of English. And most of the people we dealt with, excuse me, in the stores spoke English.
Thank you, Eric. So your presentation is a sign of me getting old, because I remember my parents threatening that they were going to make us watch somebody's slideshow after a vacation, and kind of terrifying. And I really enjoyed this one, so that's not a good sign for me. So next week's meeting, we have Rob Young, historian from NASIC, talking about threat aircraft at the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force. So think about bringing a guest. We have lots of people in our community who would be interested in that. Mike Zwick and Alex Zaharia are readers. Also, please keep an eye on upcoming programs, Beavercreekrotary.com and Facebook. And if you know anybody who would be willing to help us out on Sunday morning, put them in contact with me. Anything else for the good of the club? All right, let's rise for the pledge, please. I will say the big umbrella is the book we're donating to the Greene County Community Library on behalf of Barry. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic which is standing one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. So, thanks again, Eric. What's funny?